Hello everyone, welcome to the episode 21 of SoLeadSaturday. The guest we have today, Bhavesh Bhatt, he has been selected as top 40 under 40 data scientist. He volunteers at Google Expert Machine Learning Program. He is a YouTube content creator and trainer, and currently he's working as a data scientist at Fractal Analytics. So let's hear his career journey. How did he find his passion and leading the area he is passionate about? So welcome Bhavesh and very happy to have you on my Solid Saturday podcast.
Thank you so much, Vaishali, for this amazing introduction. And I'm truly honored to be a part of the series of videos that you kind of create in terms of empowering people who are making that transition into data science.
Mhm.
So I'll give you a brief background about what my educational qualification is and how I kind of made a transition into data science and machine learning. So I have done my graduation in electronics. I graduated in 2013. Post that, I did my master's in embedded systems from BITS Goa. This was between 2014 and 16.
Mhm.
So I have had a good amount of experience in coding. I used to code, say, devices or embedded systems in C, C++. That is the only thing that I could code at that point of time. So I was not like a proficient hard code computer science graduate who's kind of making websites and the other things that are there. So I come from more of a electronics or a hardware based background. Post my masters, I joined MathWorks, the company that makes MATLAB, the software. So one thing unique about MathWorks and the whole hiring process at MathWorks is it is very mathematics heavy. You have good amount of questions which are say mathematics oriented. They'll ask you questions on the physical interpretation of eigenvalues, eigenvectors. So before the whole say the hype that is created right now in machine learning and data science, mathematics has always been part of the whole journey that I've kind of taken, be it from signal processing or be it in terms of the interview processes that I've kind of gone through in terms of clearing the rounds as well. So MathWorks was my first company wherein I started my journey, wherein my role was revolving around creating, say, prototypes or creating solutions revolving mathematics again. So one of the projects that I worked extensively on was creating a system, a dynamic array system, which could detect where or what angle the rays are coming in and kind of move the antenna array in that direction of the waves that are coming in so that maximum power can be, say, absorbed in that antenna array. Good amount of mathematics and a good amount of, again, implementing this mathematical foundation into, say, hardware devices like an FPGA kit using MATLAB and Simulink. So I kind of really enjoyed my time at MathWorks, and I kind of was into, say, software development, more of prototyping using MATLAB and Simulink. Post my stint at Cisco, I kind of post my stint at say MathWorks, I kind of joined Cisco. In Cisco, I was more of a software developer. I was part of the ASR 9K router series team, which kind of creates the backbone network of Geo network, which is like a very big network in terms of service providers in India. So I was part of the team which was making the routers which supported Geo the network. So I was kind of making the product in terms of C, C++. I was implementing the whole code base as well. Along with this was the first time that I was exposed to Python. It was a very minimalistic level of Python that I was exposed to, like automating like a workflow in Python, so that there's nothing manual that we do in terms of compiling a router image and so on and so forth. So this was my experience before I kind of thought of making a transition in data science and machine learning. So essentially, I come from a electronics background who was working with embedded systems and software devices, programming them using C, C++, and max to max some amount of Python is what I had in terms of my skill set at that point of time. Unfortunately or fortunately, I had a serious issue at my place. So I was living in a different city before. So MathWorks and Cisco both are based out of Bangalore, and my family is based out of Mumbai. That is when I kind of decided to kind of relocate back to Mumbai. And given the kind of say companies which are there in Bangalore, you don't have a lot of electronics related company, or there aren't a lot of companies that focus in my role or my specialization that is there. this was that time that I thought of giving data science and machine learning a try. I mean,
Mhm.
nothing that was pre-decided that I'll I want to make a career in data science and machine learning. It just happened. Things kept say unrolling one day after the other, and that is how I kind of decided to make a transition in data science and machine learning. Post that decision, I kind of enrolled in a course in an institute and started
Mhm.
getting a direction in terms of how data science and machine learning is. And parallelly, I started doing courses on my own, online courses on Coursera. Everyone starts off from Andrew Ng's or Andrew
Mhm.
Nick's famous machine learning course. So that is one course that I did. The other course that I picked up was the machine learning specialization by Washington University, which is
Mhm.
again a part of Coursera.
Mhm.
Before doing these two courses, one thing that I did really well was I understood the basic machine learning concepts using a course on Udacity, which is
Mhm.
Introduction to Machine Learning, a
Okay.
very well laid out course. So these were my starting points in terms of understanding what machine learning is, what data science is, and the whole dynamics of how the field is evolving.
Yeah.
And in terms of statistics, in terms of clearing out mathematical concepts, I refer to a lot of videos on Khan Academy, which is again a very famous YouTube channel. A lot of inferential statistics based videos that are uploaded on that channel are very beneficial for beginners as well. Then I also did a book, or I completed a book end to end, which was Business Statistics by Ken Black, which kind of gives you the right amount of mathematics that people. So it generally happens that everyone's good in statistics till say college or till the time you're in touch with statistics. But once you kind of move out of that phase of say statistics, and once you're involved in different aspects of your work as well, then you
Mhm.
don't kind of get time to fall back upon statistics and the other concepts which are there. So that book that I kind of specifically refer to is really amazing in terms of giving out the right proportion of statistics which people want in order to make the transition from a non data science background to a data science background.
Yep.
So that's
So,
how,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So the way I understood you is like, you were always ready to learn new things, actually, the way you handled your career journey, as well as you were more flexible and open to the new technologies. So that is
Yes.
something definitely makes sense, that how you landed up into the data science world, and also your love towards the mathematics, because I heard
Yes.
it like tons of time in your introduction part that, you love mathematics. So
Yes.
definitely you are in the right profession as of now. So that completely shows your passion, actually. And what steps did you take? Because you were moreover like, I feel like person who always tries to do extra mile. Like, if I found something, I would try to find out more than that. What other people know, I will try to find out more than that. So that attitude definitely helps you to grow further in your passion. So moving to your volunteering experience in the Google, actually, would you like to tell more about it? Like, when did it start and how was it and what do you do exactly?
Yeah, so this program is the Google Developer Expert Program. So there are different technologies that you can kind of become a Google Developer Expert for. One of them is machine learning.
Mhm.
So I was constantly contributing to open source by creating YouTube videos on machine learning and data science. And secondly, I was writing blogs on Medium as well. I'm not like a very good blogger in terms of writing blogs. I've written 4 5 blogs and I kind of left it in my blog. But today when I kind of open up one of my blogs, I find that one of the blogs has kind of 25,000 views. So
Mhm.
that is something that I kind of enjoy doing. So my fundamental idea of creating content is if I want to ever fall back upon a content, I don't want to fall back upon anyone else's content. I want to access my own version of content that I feel that I've gone through multiple sources and I've kind of understood a concept well. So that's how I started creating content. I started speaking at different forums as well. I remember giving a talk at an event in Mumbai.
Mhm.
Post that, I gave a talk in Pi Data Mumbai as well, which is again a community-led initiative in Mumbai.
Mhm.
So that's how, based on the open source contributions, based on the blogs that I had written, based on the various talks that I had given, there was a series of say interviews taken by many individuals who are associated with this program.
Mhm.
uh, a couple of Googlers also kind of conducted interview rounds in terms of understanding my contribution so far and also understanding my technical skills. in terms of machine learning and how comfortable I am with technologies like TensorFlow and the different concepts attached to it. So I remember giving around 4 rounds, and post the whole process that happened, then I kind of got selected into this prestigious program as well, which is say carried out by Google. Then post that, I've been actively giving talks at various events.
Mhm,
Due to the current situation, I'm not able to kind of go out and give talks, say physically.
mhm,
But whenever there are, say, small student groups organizing an event, they kind of reach out to me, and I kind of give them different sessions. I conduct different sessions as well.
mhm,
So that's the whole idea of how this event works. It's more of a community-led initiative by Google, wherein Google wants to kind of say share the knowledge that they have in
mhm.
machine learning and data science to the end students which are there, and people who want to learn can benefit the most out of this initiative as well.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense to me as well, because when you get involved with the open source or the volunteering projects, actually, it gives you more exposure. People don't understand because everything doesn't fall under the financial aspect. Actually, sometimes
Yes.
you have to give back to the community so that community can follow you back. Actually, so that way you can grow your network. So it is very very valid point that why volunteering or the open source projects are important for anybody to grow in their profession. So thank you for sharing that. Moving to your recent recognition, which is like 40 under 40 data scientists. So what do you think? What efforts did you take to get nominated as that?
So I remember one of my colleagues got a mail stating that there is a nomination form that is floating around, which is for the 40 under 40 data scientist. So I thought of applying there as well. In terms of the application form, again, a lot of factors go into consideration in terms of the selection, the final selection to happen. Based on my little understanding, what they went through in depth was more of, again, the community contributions that I had made,
Mhm,
the blogs that I had written, and more specifically, in terms of my professional career as well, how much of an impact am I making in terms of the data science or machine learning models that I'm creating? What
mhm,
is the overall return on investments that my company is gaining? What is my contribution to an X product that I'm kind of currently working on? So they kind of look at every profile very holistically in terms of the different contributions that a person has made,
mhm,
what is he actively doing for the open source community, and what is the overall business impact that the person is creating in terms of the projects that he's undertaking.
mhm.
So given all the factors that were accounted for, that is how I kind of got selected for the prestigious 40 under 40 award as well.
Yeah, that's a pretty good achievement actually. So congratulations on that
Thank
part.
you so much.
You are really doing well for yourself. So
Thank you.
moving to your YouTube content creation, already you said that you are very active. You have like quite a huge subscribers following you on the YouTube. So why do you think that like content creation is required, and when did it start for you, and how do you manage along with your day to day job?
So, so essentially, I started off this as more of an activity,
Mm-hmm.
which was very random. I don't know how I started this and what idea came to my mind, but going back to the blog that I just mentioned, in terms of the blog getting 25,000 views,
Mm-hmm.
it was a very unique blog that I'd written, which is explaining concepts like true positive, false positive, true negative, and false negative in form of a language which is very symbolic to how
When did you
Indians
wrote
react.
that? When did you wrote
So
that?
this was around 2017 November is when I wrote this blog. The whole language that I'd used was cricket, so people in India could kind of relate to
Yeah.
what positive is, what false negative, and all of the concepts are. Uh, Given the blog that I had written, and I thought let's kind of start with say an activity of creating a video.
Mm-hmm.
So if people get an opportunity to look at my channel, you will observe that the first video was, say, very terrible in terms of the production quality of how a video should be. It was just more of a blog walkthrough that I had created,
Mm-hmm.
but essentially that gave me the right start in terms of how do you create content.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of criticism in terms of the audio was not audible, and a lot of things happened. So I kind of started from there, and today I kind of create content which is like very production grade. So it's been a good journey in terms of creating content for a span of 3 years. So that was the start that I had, and on the job, and so one thing that is very constant with everyone in data science and machine learning is you have to keep updating yourself. You have to keep learning new technologies.
Mm-hmm.
You have to keep learning new algorithms day in and day out. So what I decided was I wanted to say not refer anyone else's content. I wanted to create my own content, which if at one point of time, if I want to revise a concept like say what multicollinearity is or what PCA is, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to fall back upon 10 different content and then think, Arey, I'm missing out on a different content that I think was better. I wanted to say if I'm in a process of learning what multicollinearity is, then I'll study every possible say resource that is out there and create the most simplistic version of the content that is not already existing. So one unique thing about my videos or the content that I post is everything's very simplified, so that if I down the line, if I refer a content say 5 years down the line as well, I should be able to get the concept in just that 5 or 10 minutes. So that is how simple I keep my content as well, and I follow it up with a say a code walk along as well. So here
Mm-hmm.
as well, Jupyter Notebook kind of helps me a lot in terms of executing one cell at a time, so that I don't have to run through the entire code at once.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I've started creating content, and yeah, I mean the channel is doing significantly well in terms of the views, in terms of the subscribers that are there as well. But yeah, initially when I started off, every video or every content that I posted took good amount of time in terms of creating content, conceptualizing the content, writing a script according to that.
Mm-hmm.
So on an average, I spent around 10 to 12 hours in creating like a 5 minute video.
Mm-hmm.
Say creating content is one thing, but then after that marketing your content, say creating appealing thumbnails as well, then adding subtitles, because a bit of research at my end, I understood that videos with subtitles also get good amount of views as compared to videos which do not have a subtitle. So
Mm-hmm.
I started annotating my videos with subtitles as well manually. So every video for me consumed good 12 to 14 hours initially, but right now, since say given the channels that I run two channels currently. So
Nice.
given I posted around 140 odd videos, both the channels combined. So I have a hang of creating content right now. So I spend around 2.5 hours on every video right now. This is excluding the content conceptualization, but the execution for me right now takes around 2.5 to three and a half hours at max, and that's how I'm able to deliver content, keeping a balance with the say the normal job that I'm doing as well. So yeah, that's how I manage things.
So definitely one valid point you mentioned is like, try experimenting what works
Yes.
for you, what works best for you. That is very important when you are getting into any career. And second thing is, once you find that path, actually don't give up. And once you keep practicing, actually one day you will be expert. Like as you said that initially you used to spend like 12 to 14 hours on video content. Now you reach to the time where you are spending only 3 to 4 hours. It is like a great achievement actually. So it is kind of a expert you are now in the YouTube content creation. So that's nice. And moving towards your skill set, actually, you already mentioned that you are not hardcore programmer, like that kind of a background. You did your undergrad in a different, but once you found your interest, you started learning the Python and everything. So that clearly shows that Python is your favorite programming language. So what one has to do actually to learn any programming language and excel in that programming language, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of understanding a programming language, in terms of say, be it any language, be it JavaScript or people who are say dealing with different languages, one thing that kind of boils down again is your understanding of what you're trying to solve, and having a clear picture in terms of how you want to structure that code as well. So if you want to achieve a simple task from say X point to Y point, how do you structure the code and what code do you write in between is not that important, but how do you structure your code, how do you structure your thoughts is where your understanding of writing code comes in very handy. So although I may not come from like a proper computer science or a typical programming background, but given I've always programmed in C++, given I had to program embedded controllers and hardware devices,
Mhm.
The logic was always there in terms of creating good code. That logic was there so that given the constraints that are there for people who code in electronics, you always have the memory constraint. I mean, running a code on a full-fledged OS like a Windows OS or a Linux OS is different as compared to running code on a simple small microcontroller or an Arduino board or something similar to those grounds as well. So I've always had an exposure to coding. I've always had this idea of how to write optimized code.
Mhm.
But for everyone who is trying to make, say, or who's trying to understand how to write optimized code, the structuring of or structuring of how do you reach from point X to point Y, and
Mhm.
having a clear vision in terms of what you want to achieve out of that code is very important. And then writing code comes with practice. So the more you practice, the more you understand what is good readable code, what are sections in your code which are termed as dead code as well, how do you make good use of iterators. So all of that comes with practice, but the fundamental idea still remains the same, that you are given a problem to solve. You are at point X, you have to reach point Y. How do you structure the whole, say, movement is where your experience comes in handy. And with time you will kind of understand what do you how do you optimize that route from reaching X to Y as well.
Yeah. So this is very, very important point. I guess students can relate to that as well, whoever is struggling to, because a lot of questions I get from the students is that, I'm new to the data science and I'm new to the programming. Where should I start? And that kind of, and I always tell that start with the simple course, and then, go, like, once you start feeling comfortable and finding the interest, then you definitely level up yourself.
Yes.
So unless until you didn't find that interest, try exploring the things. Like, don't just stick with somebody said that Python is a good, go for Python. Try R as well. There is no
Yes.
harm. Like, every programming language has some benefits. So it
Yes.
is just up to your interest that, and once you find that, you can just level up your skills in that particular.
Yes.
So, moving towards your data science and machine learning expertise, actually. So, any interesting use case or the findings that you would like to share with the audience so far? Like, you
So
remember that, like, this project or some specific use case.
so I can, so given the organization's constraints that are there, I wouldn't be able to share something from the organization. But something that I can share is I was currently working on a project which is, so this is something that I'd been working from my final year as well, which had nothing to do with, say, machine learning at that point of time, which was in 2013 when I was doing my engineering.
Mhm.
During my final year, I developed a Braille calculator. Now that is calculator for blind people. So you have a language for blind people, which can detect Braille letters. So every number is embossed using a simple encoded language, which will have like uh, three, uh, three rows and two columns. So for a number A, you will have a representation wherein one of the dots would be raised or two of the dots would be raised, and so on and so forth. So there is like a pattern for understanding every letter or a number. So I had created, or a team of, or my team in final year engineering had created this project, which was a simple electronics project wherein given a number that you punch in,
Mhm.
it will automatically calculate whatever calculations you want to perform and give out an output in form of rotations of the stepper motor. So your motors will move, and the blind person can actually touch the motor and get the result in form of the language that he understands. We
Mhm.
also integrated an audio output which could also output an audio as well. So this was an entire, what do you say, an electronics driven project.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, so this was something that I created in 2013. Given now I have good amount of expertise in data science and machine learning. So in January of this year itself, I had some time in between, and this was that time that I thought of picking up a project. So I kind of collected samples of images for those embossings which are there, and I trained a convolutional neural network out of it, which could recognize the images of those individual letters which are there.
Mhm.
Now, what I've created in terms of a product right now is, if you click on, if there is a braille transcript which a blind person wants to read, he just has to open his, say, mobile phone, click an image, and the audio would be outputted automatically. So this is something that I've created in terms of a proof of concept. the model is highly accurate. The more data I get, the more accuracy I can kind of reach to. But given the model that I've created, what it does is it kind of goes line by line and element by element.
Mm-hmm.
It understands which letter it is from the Braille language. It kind of collects all the letters, uh, collects that in form of a sentence, and then using Google's text to speech library, which is available in Python, it kind of reads out the text that is there on the transcript in audio format as well. So essentially this can be integrated with Google Assistant. That is what I'm currently working on. So I can create a simple Flask API which can be consumed by this Google Assistant based system, or maybe I can create an Android app that can kind of detect this at real time as well. So this is something that I'm currently working on, which is like a good implementation of whatever you learn in terms of machine learning, and how do you bring it for a good social cause as well. So
Yeah,
this is
this
something
is
that,
a
yeah.
really great and interesting idea actually. So, do you have this anywhere in the public, like where
So
people can
yeah, yeah.
see?
So I have created a video around this. I have not yet open sourced the code. I'm currently working on the Android piece of it as well. So I'm currently learning Android because I want to create an app out of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, once the whole say the idea is ready, then I'll kind of share it across on my GitHub account as well. But right now, the demo in terms of what the capabilities are already exist on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, so feel free to share with me as well. Actually, whenever you feel that it is ready, I will
Sure,
be happy to share it with my community as well, because this is
sure.
a
That
really
would be great.
good idea, and I would love to support that.
Thank you so much.
Moving to your like like one person asked this question actually, if someone wants to move to data science profile in core companies like Google, Facebook, like big four, so what skills they should focus on in next 2 years? Do you have that vision, like what skill set would be, because this area is very evolving? You can just maybe mention a couple of skill sets those will be valuable for them.
Yeah, so essentially, based on the discussions that I've had with a lot of my friends who've kind of, couple of them have kind of made a transition to companies like Facebook and all as well. So a friend of mine is kind of working in Facebook Singapore right now as a data science professional. So based on the discussions that I've had with a couple of my friends, what I feel their hiring criteria is more centered around the projects that you do, how unique your projects are, and what is the overall business impact that your project is creating. Again, the roles that they hire for are very specific in terms of what their requirements are. So if they are hiring for say a profile, so he was shortlisted for a Facebook advertisement based data science role in Facebook Singapore. So essentially what happens is everyone's or the job profile that they put out is very crystal clear in terms of their requirements. So if once you kind of go through their requirements as well, you will understand what their requirements are, and if the requirements match based on your profile, then you have a good chance of being shortlisted in that role as well for an interview round.
Mm-hmm.
Now every company has different say structures in terms of conducting interviews. If the role is say programming heavy, if it's more than a proof of concept based role wherein people want you to kind of deploy models end to end, people want you like a software developer come a data scientist, then people will make you go through the entire software engineering piece as well, wherein they'll ask you questions on say competitive platforms, wherein you'll have to solve data structures and algorithms based questions. You'll have to write code on different portals. I remember a lot of my friends writing code on Google Docs as well, which the interviewer also has access to. So this is something that you'll have to go through if it's like a software engineering based role. Some companies also expect you to know cloud technologies like AWS, GCP, Azure, and the others as well. So good amount of working knowledge is also what is essential in such kind of role. And one thing that companies like Google and Facebook really stress a lot upon is the basic fundamental understanding of algorithms as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you mention any algorithm, be it say support vector machine or principal component analysis or random forest, be sure to own up to that algorithm in terms of understanding the mathematics behind that algorithm. A lot of places where I've seen a lot of say resumes coming to me, and when I conduct interviews as well, people write fancy algorithm names just for the sake of writing it, but not a lot of people are able to own up to the algorithm choice, why they've chosen an X algorithm over Y algorithm, what does the algorithm do behind the scene in terms of mathematics as well is very important. So companies do ask you the fundamental idea behind the algorithm, and why did you choose an X algorithm over Y? What was the business problem that you were trying to solve? How did you assess the algorithm's performance as well? If you've used, say, are you evaluating your model for a classification task based on accuracy, or are you chasing F1 score or precision or recall or something of that sort? So your fundamentals have to be clear. If it's more of a software oriented role, then you are expected to write good quality production level code as well. And if you are the one who's going to be responsible for some amount of deployment activities, then having some amount of working knowledge in terms of say Docker and the cloud technologies which are there would also be a good added advantage as well. So yeah, the field is evolving, but people expect you to know a lot of things as well. So that's how I can kind of answer this.
Yeah, every 6 months you will hear something different actually. So that is true that this is not yet like stable environment to see the future, like what would be there in next 2 years. But definitely the things you mentioned out, those are very important. Problem solving and analytical skills. If you are appearing for any interview, it is more important that you are clear on your understanding rather than just following something which you are reading. It is something that kind of a processing has to happen on your end, why it is happening. So you always need to keep asking those questions because interviewer is going to look into those. So that is very valuable actually. I feel that that person would be happy to hear your answer. Moving to Kaggle platform actually, did you contributed to any Kaggle platform competition, and why would you recommend that to the people?
So, I mean, in terms of Kaggle, Kaggle is a very amazing platform. I kind of use that in terms of, say, understanding the new things that are coming up in terms of doing better exploratory data analysis. In terms of my Kaggle, say, contribution, I'm not a very active Kaggler, so to say. I find it very difficult in terms of managing job, YouTube channel, and the other activities that I do to also find time for Kaggle. But individually, what I feel is Kaggle as a platform is really good in terms of giving you a good solid data. There may be objections in terms of that's not how real industry data is, and that's not how real data science is. But what I feel is in terms of getting the right CSV file, what do you do after that? What algorithm do you select? How do you say approach a problem? What are the steps that you take in terms of deriving insights, in terms of the exploratory data analysis? Which algorithms do you pick? How do you convert say different say categorical variables into numeric? What are the different transformation techniques that you kind of encounter? So a lot of things are tied when you kind of pick up a Kaggle competition. For me, one thing that I've actively used Kaggle is to learn a lot from Kaggle kernels, which a lot of people contribute in terms of open sourcing their own notebooks.
Mhm.
So that's how I kind of use Kaggle. I want to say sometime participate in Kaggle competitions actively, but given the schedule that I have, given the amount of things that I'm already doing, I find it very difficult to kind of incorporate the whole Kaggle competition thing as well.
Yeah.
Because the idea is it requires a lot of time for you to devote. You cannot just enroll in a competition and kind of get a good rank as well.
Mhm.
So I utilize it more of like a learning platform wherein I kind of open up random challenges which are going on, go through the different notebooks which are there available as form of Kaggle kernels, and try to learn as much as I can from Kaggle.
Yeah. So definitely that is a valid point actually. If anybody is trying to see the data sources actually, before that, now Google also provided the data sources like, so you have a lot more data sources available which are open source and you can just try it out. But before it wasn't there, Kaggle was the first platform where you can go and explore your knowledge. So, and anyhow, like, still it is like, has a lot of data, even though it is little more clean data, which is not like ideal situation, but for the practice, definitely it is a good platform to explore. Moving towards, like you talked a lot more about algorithms as well. It shows clearly your interest in the data science area. So which is your favorite algorithm and why?
So again, it's very difficult to pick one algorithm, but one thing that I use a lot if I have to get like the first version of an algorithm up and running is I like random forest a lot.
Mm.
I think given it kind of gives you a very good enough model, say in the first version in terms of doing proper hyper parameter tuning as well. So if I have to pick one without having to go into something which is very complex like a boosting algorithm, and something which is not as simple as say logistic as well, I would kind of stick to like a balanced random forest. But again, it depends on case to case. I kind of first understand what the problem is, what is the end expectation of the algorithm as well, what is the end expectation of whatever I kind of want to create, how is it tied up to, if the algorithm has. So one thing that is coming up really actively right now is understanding your model as well. So model interpretability is of also prime concern. So if I have to explain an algorithm to an end user as well, I would say prefer a simpler algorithm which I can explain to the larger audience as well. A simple decision tree if I don't have a lot of features as well. Doing good amount of hyperparameter tuning on decision trees can help you, or can help the business understand why have we chosen X feature over say X2 feature and so on and so forth. So if the idea is to use something which is simple and explain it to the end business, then I'll go for simpler algorithms like logistic decision trees. If the idea or the objective is to create something which is accurate, irrespective of what the underlying algorithm kind of gives you. Now you have feature importances as well coming in from different algorithms like XGBoost as well. But if feature or model interpretability is not of prime concern, then I would highly recommend the simpler algorithms. If accuracy is of prime importance, then I'll go in for something as complex as XGBoost as well. So that is how I kind of, so that is why striking a right balance, I kind of go with random forest a lot of times in terms of creating models.
Yeah, that is very valid. And just to add it to that, actually, nowadays you have a lot of automated machine learning platforms as well, which is making your job easier and giving you the best suitable model for that particular data set. So it is now no more like, your choice. There are platforms which can predict it for you, which would be the best, and you can just go further selecting that model and fine tune that. So now there are a lot of things are changing. That's what we and Bhavesh both discussed, that this field is evolving. So definitely you have to keep up to the latest technology trends coming in the data science field to level up yourself. So it is more over like a proactive work from your side. Moving towards the leadership style, you are definitely going to lead the area you are passionate about. The way you are talking definitely shows that. So what is your leadership style, or what is like kind of a leadership you always look for, and any favorite leader that you follow?
So, my if I have to kind of say put words in terms of my leadership style, then I would say I'm more of a democratic leader. I've kind of had the opportunity of working with interns. I kind of work with a team right now. I don't lead a team directly, but with people that I interact with, I believe more of in terms of democracy, in terms of giving or trying to absorb as many ideas that I can from my peers. In terms of understanding what is right for business, what is right for a X project, and then kind of thinking through every possible idea and then kind of creating a roadmap that can kind of solve the end problem. So that is how I kind of think of my leadership style, which is a combination of something that is more democratic plus something that is more say in tune with coaching, wherein if my peers or if people that have interned with me find it difficult in terms of solving a problem, in terms of challenges that they're facing, in terms of which algorithm to choose or what is the right approach of solving a problem. I specifically spend time with them in terms of guiding them through, in terms of what are the next steps that they can take, what is the right road that they can take in terms of achieving or creating or coming up with a solution. So I'm more of someone, since I kind of like teaching, so I kind of like coaching people as well, not spoon feeding them to the extent that I go on and solve the problem. That kind of defeats the purpose. But giving them right direction in terms of giving them the right path in terms of what they have to do. If they kind of say uh, face a roadblock as well, then they how do they overcome that roadblock as well. So giving them good amount of situations to play around with is my way of say dealing with people whom I kind of interact with on a daily basis. In terms of the leader that I kind of look up to, it has to be one of my ex bosses. His name is Abhishek. I had the privilege of working under him at FlexiLoans. He's someone that I kind of really admire in terms of the way he kind of leads the team. So we were a team of 4 people, and we were very eager in terms of asking for new projects and pushing him to a different limit in terms of extracting new good work from him as well. So he's someone that I've kind of imbibed a lot of my qualities from as well, in terms of how you should lead a team, how you should kind of give priority in terms of which project should to pick up at what stage of time as well. So he's someone in terms of, so he currently is the co-founder of a company called as Flexi Loans. So I kind of, I've learned, I had the opportunity of working under him for a year, and I've kind of learned a lot from him as well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's good actually. Thank you for sharing. And moving towards, like, if anybody founds their interest actually and they want to move towards the leadership roles, what would be the steps? Actually, a couple of things you already mentioned, like, getting into the volunteering, open source, building the community, giving back to the community. Those are very valid point actually when you are growing towards the leadership side, that you have your, like, follow up. And then the way you said that more being a creative, so you are a content creator, so it shows that you are a creative person.
Yes.
So apart from that, anything else you would like to add to that, that what person has to do if he finds his interest and wants to grow towards the leadership style?
So one thing that I can recommend is that person should be open to criticism, open to positive criticism. The idea is once you kind of say send out content which is for the entire world to consume, sometimes it may work, sometimes it may not work. Some videos may work, some videos may not work. Some blogs may work, some may not get that amount of appreciation that you predicted it to be. So essentially, you should be open in terms of understanding where you're going wrong. So based on my experience as well, the initial videos that I used to create were very elementary in terms of their production quality. So the content was rich, but a couple of my colleagues from FlexiLoans again gave me this feedback that you should start improving the production quality. That would kind of enhance the reach of your videos as well. And I took it in a very positive manner. I kind of included all those positive criticisms as well, and then I started creating, say, better appealing content. The core still remained the same, but I started making it more presentable so that more people can start viewing it as well. So people who are trying to, say, transition into like a leadership role, one recommendation that I can give at this stage is be open to criticism. Try that, say, inculcate that habit of understanding how one feedback can actually benefit you in the long run as well. So that is something that I can recommend.
This is very, very important point actually. I wasn't expecting that from you, but yeah, that is really very valid, that you have to be open for the criticism, whether it is whatever kind of, actually, it is something that when you are growing, some people will like you, some people will not like you. So it is not like, everybody should like you the way you are. It is moreover like working on those things, why they don't like you. So that keeps you improvising, and definitely that is very, very valid point and very wise actually. So thank you so much for sharing. Last one is about tip and advice. You gave lots of tips and advices actually, which is very important for anybody who is looking to move into the area they are interested in. Anything specific again to end up this podcast you would like to mention?
So something that I would like to mention is for people who are, say, planning to make a transition into data science and machine learning. I'll not beat around the bush by saying you can learn data science and machine learning in 3 days, 3 weeks, or 3 months. It's a good amount of journey that you'll have to be up and ready for.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, say, the learning graph, you will have to keep learning every day. The technologies would keep evolving. An algorithm that was very active, say, 5 years back, might not be in use today. So be open to learning new things. The whole process of learning things is never gonna end. If you end up in a role wherein you are expected to be a data engineer come data science, so I currently handle the end-to-end pipeline for my, say, product as well. So essentially, I am the data engineer, I am the data scientist, I am the guy who kind of comes up with business problems as well. So I handle the end-to-end life cycle of a project. I am the product, so-called product manager as well. So be open to exploring new things. Be open to uh, experimenting with new things. It's okay to fail. A lot of people kind of have this fear that if this project is not executed, then what will happen? It's okay to fail. It's okay to fail and then also come back even stronger in terms of trying hard. So that is something that I can mention for people who are specifically kind of say thinking of transitioning into a data science or an ML role. Mathematics is your bread and butter. If you are not very comfortable with mathematics, then ideally this is not that right field for you, because essentially all the discussions that I have with my boss as well are more mathematics heavy rather than say just about coding or what the module is doing. So you have to be comfortable with mathematics. You should enjoy maths. I mean, for me, if given an algorithm, I try to sit down and understand the nitty-gritties of how the algorithm works. Although at the end, I would write just 3 lines of code in terms of importing the module from sklearn, fitting it, and then predicting. But what goes behind the scene makes me choose that algorithm over the other algorithm as well. So be comfortable with mathematics. If you're not coming from a coding background as well, it's okay. But if you keep practicing coding as well, there are a lot of competitive sites that give you that opportunity as well. Then that transition would be very seamless. Kaggle as a platform as well is very powerful in terms of building a good data science portfolio. You can participate on a lot of competitions, try to secure a rank in the top 5 or top 10% of the total competitors that are there. That will give you a good bullet point on your resume as well. So yeah, in terms of closing note, that's the only thing that I could say. And yeah, keep studying. And yeah, hopefully everyone's gonna make the transition, whoever is watching the video. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just conclude in a such a way that, be an explorer, open to the new learnings, and find out your interest first, actually. So if you are an explorer, that will definitely give you an opportunity what area you are interested in, and then proceed further and grow in that area. So thank you so much, Bhavesh. And it was really, really cheerful conversation. And I really enjoyed to have you on my podcast. So thank you so much. And people, hope you will also enjoy this episode. I will provide all the details about Bhavesh YouTube channel and as well as his LinkedIn profile. So if you feel like following him up, he's definitely a true trainer, and he's a good at mentoring the people, I feel. So definitely reach out to him, and he will be a good point of contact for you. So thank you so much, and until we
Thank you
meet,
so
happy
much.
reading. Let's read together.